Today's episode is with a new friend of mine, Courtney Koenig, and she is actually a manifestation and human design coach. We just spent some time before we're recording here on her podcast where she took my human design chart and she did a reading for me, kind of explained all the different parts of it. Up until this point, I knew really nothing about human design, and it was an amazing experience. I had to ask her the question, like, are they all the same? Because this is so true for me, that I just was like, maybe I'm the same as everyone. So maybe that was it. But she lives in Texas. She has 4 kids. She has dogs, a grand dog. Oh, you have 2 dogs and a grand dog, which people like who love dogs are my type of people. So I love that about you already. Her and her husband also have like a marketing company, and I mean a lot of things. And I'm excited to have her on here today to kind of talk more about human design, what it is, where it came, how she learned about it, and what difference it's shown in her life. But what else, Courtney? Thank you for being here. And what else should the listeners know about you?
Oh, thank you so much, Chelsea, for having me on. This is so exciting to be on, and I'm grateful that we got to know each other before this too, as well. So I live here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We've been down here for close to 20 years, and I came across human design in a very harmonic way. I was opening up a coaching program and had a human design coach come on because I just felt this part of my soul calling towards it. And when she came on and she was describing it, I was like, I must learn more. There's something here for me. And so I followed those steps to launch a global coaching program that just grew on its own. I wake up every day thinking, I can't believe I get to work in this. This doesn't even feel like work. It's just pure joy. People get to pay me and I get to help them. And it just is a beautiful life. And I just feel so grateful to have been led to this path.
And I think that's something that's really cool and important to think about and to notice is that you were open to more learning. Even as sometimes when we are a leader or a coach or something, we get to this place where we think that we need to be in authority. And sometimes that is misunderstood as like, everything. And so stop learning. And you were open to this new way of learning or understanding or seeing yourself. And that led you to just another part of your business that helped you really grow and expand. So I love that.
Yes. Yeah. I like to have things all road mapped out, but a while ago in my life, I was like, you know what? The roadmap always changes. Just be open to what the journey brings. And I think that was the beginning of understanding that the possibilities are endless if I just allow for them to come in. If I'm not saying it has to be this way or I'm not worthy of it to be this way, just the journey is what is key to growth and possibilities.
It's absolutely the truth. And so we think that can trust ourselves when we have like everything written out in this perfect form. But really, there are parts of that are operating from a place of fear. Because true trust is being in the here and now and saying, okay, what is the best option for me here? What is the right decision? What feels good? What's coming to me? What's meant to leave now? So being in this here and now is actually trust and actually confidence and actually clarity. When sometimes we try to plan, it's this place of fear of, am I going to know? Or if it's all out there, then I don't have to keep listening. I don't have to keep trusting or keep asking, which is, that's pretty deep. That's pretty deep for you all right there. But that's just kind of how we roll around here. But it is really true. It's like, if I can trust myself now, then I'm going to be able to trust myself tomorrow. And I'm going to be able to trust myself the next day and the next day. So that staying open is actually exactly what you did. And I think that that's why you've been able to find the success that you have, is because there was that step by step of trust.
Yes. Yeah. I love what you said, like trusting in ourselves right here, right now, believing in ourselves relentlessly, like why wouldn't we, you know?
I love that word, relentlessly. And the way we do it is by listening and executing and doing, right? It's listening, doing, listening, doing. And then we say, oh, okay, look how this turned out. Now I can connect the dots backwards and I can see how this worked out for me. You also mentioned to me when we were just having a conversation before that, you and your husband have this very successful marketing company that you used to travel a lot with, and you had your hands really in, and then some health issues came up. And then what?
Yeah, well, last year I was diagnosed with MS, and it came on all of a sudden. The doctors were like, "Why have you never had these symptoms before?" And I was like, "No, trust me, I was at the gym. I could do anything,
Yeah.
And this really taught me so much about release. It taught me how important it is to release things that are not in my control, And in that release, I actually found so much gratitude in having this, like I had months and months of probably like a good 5 or 6 months of feeling dizzy every single day. And I was like, I didn't realize that is so crippling, like being able to walk downstairs. I was like, I walk downstairs. This is amazing,
Yeah.
like, and now I can walk around my neighborhood, and I take my little dog on a neighborhood walk every single day. And I think in all those moments of, I released so much, but I gained so much, and I celebrate those moments. Like my theme for this year, when I typically sometimes don't really have a theme, I'm just like, let's see how it goes,
Yeah.
But I'm like, this year I was like, I'm going to celebrate these things that I used to take for granted. Like I used to take for granted walking and being able to like feel good. And when I don't have energy, I think, oh, I'm so glad I did have energy for those couple hours, So that celebration has just released so much that I didn't even realize I was carrying, that I didn't even have to carry. I'm like, why did I even carry those expectations of myself, or was hard on myself for different things, or didn't realize this full scope of every day is such a win. It's such a beautiful win.
I have chills because that feels like just living in gratitude. And gratitude really opens us up for more receiving, but also for peace and for joy and for noticing. When we're in gratitude, it's like almost like we're looking for things to be happy about. We're looking for, like, this is true. It's a gift to be alive. Oh my gosh, what else is true? And then you're like, oh, the flowers are blossoming, and oh my gosh, I can breathe this air. It feels so good. Just staying in that state of gratitude, I think, is so beautiful. Thank you for that. And I'm like inspired by that.
Thanks. Then I love what you said about like, what else is true, and that shifts everything, especially when we're talking about manifesting exactly what we want, the life that we want. That's one of the key tools is, what is true? What do I already see the good that is happening in my life? And when we see the good, we attract more good. It comes into our life with more abundance.
Yeah, it makes perfectly good sense, because we all have the friend that is like, or maybe it's us sometimes, that it's like, of course my flight was canceled. Oh, of course I didn't, my order was delivered to the neighbors. Oh, that's just my luck. That's, and it's like they're this stuck in this proving and looking for proof that the truth is that bad things happen, that, so there is the option of both. And so intentionally deciding to release and focus on like the gifts around you, I think is such a powerful lesson, and something I would really encourage listeners to consider.
Yes. Yeah. That proving, and taking our mind. And that's what I love about human design too, is it proves to our mind like, hey, here's the gifts that you were born with. It's only based on your date of birth. So the mind's not trying to find these loopholes or these like, oh, well, I answered those questions wrong, for the day, or I was hungry.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yes. Like other personality tests, we can kind of think of human design like that.
Yeah. But, and I love, and I shared this with you, that some people are kind of like, I don't want a personality test. I don't want this thing because I don't want it to tell me who I am. And I don't want it to like, they struggle with that. But I see it as how cool that we can see ourselves in so many different lights. Like who doesn't want to, I guess the truth is a lot of people don't. So, but what could it hurt if you could see it's like you have 12 pairs of glasses, right? You can see yourself in all of these different ways. And just the more you know about yourself and the more ways you can see yourself rather than just like looking in the mirror physically at yourself. I know people who do color coaching, or there's like the Enneagram, or this human design, or I know there's like 400 different ones, and there's something good in all of them. But I love that this really, like, as you were reading mine, you guys have to go listen to our episode together, because if you're here and you know a little bit about me and you've been on the podcast, you've been in my Instagram, like you will die the things that she said, that the way that my chart read. And I was like, this is so crazy. But also there was like some validation, some encouragement, some like peace of mind of just saying like, you can accept these things about yourself. Or who could you be if you accepted this truth about you, about these gifts and these strengths? Like, how could you show up if you really believed that these things, and they were all beautiful things, like there's awareness of all good things, right? Like being aware and balanced, but who could you be if you actually believed in these gifts? So I loved that experience.
Oh, I'm so glad. And I feel like human design is the freedom, it's the freedom to be really who we are. And that X factor of who we are in our businesses creates magic. The more aligned we are with our very being, the more things happen for us that are meant for us. And we're not blocking it, or we're not trying to be someone else, or we're like, oh, well, a really successful boss is like this, they do this and this and this, and for my design type, like being a projector, I need more sleep. So part of my business plan is taking naps. Yeah. And that seems super like you would never take a nap. And
actually, you want to know the weird part about me is I actually love naps. Oh, but I love a 15-minute nap, because it's almost like that alone time in the car. It's almost the same thing for me. When when we get home, my family goes inside. I sit in the car for 15 minutes just by myself. I do. Nice. Sometimes I love to go to the car wash by myself. Then a 15-minute nap is sort of that same type of like, I have to be by myself to generate more.
That's great. Well, and that goes along with what that we were talking about with your chart, that you need that alone time to decompress and to release other people. That is so beautiful that you were listening to that, and not judging yourself for having that time, giving yourself permission to have what you need. And I think we all need permission to have our needs and our wants, and then to go do it.
And the truth is that when you experience like both sides of it, so say I go back to a time of my life where maybe I was just going at the sacrifice of myself, then it's like, I literally am, driving on the freeway, and I'm not going to like swerve my car, but if like someone hit me, then this would all end, right? Like I could like not have to be doing all of these things, which I know that's like a lot to say, but like there was a time when that was the truth. It was like I was like sacrificing myself at the expense of myself. And so then now when you go and on the other side and you say, I can fully show up in the best version of myself when I am taking time to rest, when I am sitting in my sauna, when I go through the car wash, when I, it's like when I take 10 minutes to connect with my children, when I, there's like all the little things, but until you have maybe experienced both sides, or once you experience both sides, then it's no longer like negotiable that I'm going to sacrifice myself anymore, because I know what the result is. Not good.
Yeah, it's not good. And it never comes at a convenient time. And that feeling of like, I want to burn this all down,
Oh, yeah.
Feel good.
No, it doesn't at all.
Yeah. And it messes up our energetic exchange with others. I'm like, we have soul contracted clients. Our
Yeah.
clients are like our soul sisters, and
Mm.
we have this contract together before we even really sign on the dotted line, and that those energy exchanges happen when we're in that space of receiving and giving and having that freedom to be really us and not feeling like we want to burn the whole thing down. It's
It's
that
interesting
beauty.
is that time that I just like
Yeah.
told you that I was just so
Yeah.
much. And
Yeah.
not very long ago, we were scrolling through my kids. One of their favorite things, especially my youngest son, is to sit on the phone and just scroll through. And I have all the pictures. I just buy more storage or something. I don't know what I do, but I don't delete pictures. And so they're all on there, and he's scrolling through. And there's a picture of me, and I'm actually smiling in the photo. But he looked at this picture and he said, "Mom, why are you sad? Like your eyes are sad." And it was absolutely the truth that in that picture, like that was the time where I was like, I am like, burn it all down because I can't maintain this. I can't live like this. I'm abandoning all the parts of me that bring me to fulfillment. It's like so many good things that you're distracted from the things that are actually important. And so I thought it was interesting that and he is like super, super in tune, aware, empathetic, but he looked at that picture and instantly, Mom, why are you sad? But I was smiling.
Oh, wow. There's such power in that, in
Mm-hmm.
healing ourselves, and
Yeah.
if we don't like align and heal ourselves, we can't give as much, we can't give
Mm-hmm.
to others, we can't be there and show up how we want to be. And that doesn't feel good,
Yeah.
that feels yucky and disconnected.
Mm.
And we don't want to live like that. That's not a quality of life.
So as you were learning about human design,
Mhm.
I'm like so interested to know where, like learning about it and implementing it into your life, like what growth do you feel like you've seen on a personal level?
One of the things that has been huge is just feeling more settled and satisfied. You
Mm,
know, that I was living before mostly like a generator or manifesting generator that had lots of energy.
mm,
And so I was like, well, if I am not getting up at 5 a.m. and working, and doing all the things, then I'm not doing enough. So I guess there was so much judgment on my part of who I was. Like I have felt more me in the last couple of years and more confident than I ever have my whole life.
mm,
And it just has almost like been this wrapping of like a comfortable blanket around me. Like I can physically feel like so comfortable in who I am. And I also have the ability to say, you know what, if I'm not living in that alignment, what is off? What am I not
mhm.
doing? Like what am I not giving myself permission to need? Because it's really coming from within. So it's just been this beautiful experience of almost like this enlightenment, like these chains have been released from me and I show up more me because I believe in myself more and I give myself what I need without judgment or hesitation.
Well, and you know what you need. I think
Yeah.
that's a huge part of us kind of like wandering around going like, I know this doesn't feel right or good, but I don't actually know what I need. And so that this resource, this tool of human design was able to kind of show
Mhm.
you what you need. And here's the thing is that I do believe that as people, if they experience this, then they'll be able to look at it and say, is this true for me? Right. You still get to
Uh-huh.
like the human design isn't like, here you are. Now you have this thing that is making you do and act in these certain ways. You still have to receive, and you're going to be able to, truth speaks to truth. Right. So it's like, you're
Yes.
going to see that. And maybe for the first time you saw it on your chart and you were like, oh my gosh, that makes sense. That's what I'm missing, or that's what I'm wanting. That's what I'm needing. And so it spoke truth to you, and then you accepted it, received it, and now you've implemented it into your life.
Yes. Yeah. And one of my gifts is to be able to speak. And so when I found out about that, I was like, oh, but I was like, well, let's just try it out. Let's just try it out and see what this would do if I lean into speaking more. And so I was asked to speak at a conference in front of hundreds of women, and it was so amazing. And I was like, wow, I love this. And so exploring that area in my business has been really cool to step into that gift. And I don't think I would have ever really pursued that and found that much fulfillment if I thought, well, why not just play around with this and see if I really like this, see if this is really me, So I feel like that's, what you're saying too, is like, if we can have more play and more freedom and not feel like so boxed in, that's what this has done for me.
With a little bit of like direction and guidance.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Direction and guidance. Totally.
That's so good. And I think the other thing to think about is when you were talking about that it was, you had this gift of using your voice and speaking, you could have also gone and said, okay, it says that I am going to, that I have this gift of speaking. And so I'm going to go and I'm going to see if other people like it. But instead, what I make up and what I heard was that you went and you felt good after. Like you felt good. It wasn't about even if you didn't even have to have feedback from them, when you chose to step into that and like use your voice, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this feels good. I actually like that. And the inner feedback is what we need to be listening to. Would you agree with that?
Oh, totally. It was all about the experience on my side. And when I was going into that, I was like, I could feel and see myself how I wanted to show up, exactly how I wanted to show up. Like my message went exactly how I wanted to, because I felt it in my heart. And because of that, I was like, that was really cool. And I was able to connect, which is another part of my human design chart, is that connection with people on deep, meaningful relationships. So I felt like if I could be up on stage and have that connection, like I felt like I was in a room just one-to-one with someone, then I was fulfilling my purpose and my gift right there. And it felt so good. It was amazing.
As you're talking about that, and like there's been some phrases like this soul connection or the soul contract, or because connection is one of the most important things to me, is to feel connected. And I think when connection is so important to you, there is a tendency at times when you don't know what the connection, or if there will be connection on the other end. It's like we go into this place of protection of, actually, I'm not going to even put out my connectors, because what if there's nothing on the other end of that connection? Have you experienced that?
Yes. Yeah. And I think of too, I'm like, what is my part with this? Is my part to give that connection? And if I've done that, if I have done that in an authentic way, if I've really showed up as me, then I'm like, I checked the box. I did my part.
So good.
And the other person has their own part to receive or to not receive. And it doesn't, I guess it doesn't bother me anymore. I just think of like, hey, am I showing up as who I want to show up as? Awesome.
That's so good.
Yes.
Yeah. Am I showing up who I want to show up as? That's an amazing takeaway. So as you've taken this human design and implemented it into your coaching business and with clients, like what growth, personal, individual growth, do you feel like you've been able to see in them?
Oh, it's been huge growth. Like people have not only like doubled, tripled, quadrupled their messaging, their DMs have really felt like they can show up in that way. They have grown their group by hundreds of percentage, because they're like, you know what, this is what I love. This is me. I'm going to show that. And that's what people want. They have expanded their coaching practices. I have clients who are like, I don't even know. I want to do a coaching practice, but I don't even know what I want to do. And so we develop it from start to finish, And
it's all based supporting their gifts and their talents and their strengths.
Yes. Yeah. Always doing it with that velocity and feeling too. What I love hearing people say, and I think you were saying this too, is I feel validated. I feel like I was seen and heard. And that has more magic than we even realize. That validation is a need of each one of us. But what it stems from is that we need to see ourselves first, and then others can see us. And then when others see us clearly, it's this beautiful power that just resonates.
And there is this thing where it's like the three different parts of us. It's like the way we see ourselves, the way we think the way others people see us, and the way we think other people see us. And the majority of the time we operate from the place of the way we believe others see us, not how we see ourselves or not how others see us, but we function from a place of how we believe others see us. So none of them are accurate, right? So it's like not accurate at all because it isn't true. But this, I think, in this work that we're talking about and the power of this is going back to the way that you see yourself. And it's not affected by the thoughts or the beliefs that you see or think other people see you or believe about you. It's truly how you see yourself. And it is when you're willing to see yourself, the truest, most authentic form of you. And then going, okay, now I'm going to let you see me, right?
Yes.
Which can be a challenging part.
Yeah. And it can be scary too. So one of my clients is a 7-figure coach. And she was like, you told me one thing about my human design. And she's like, that is what I've been needing. I've been needing that freedom to be able to choose. I've been needing that freedom of, well, yeah, I'm going to follow this just because I feel like it, you know? And she's like, okay, thank you so much. And it's just like, it's like this weight, you know, that comes off of people. And at each stage in our life of growth, we hit these new ceilings and these new struggles, you know, or mindsets.
I call them new levels. I call them new levels. Like whenever you're in struggle, it's going to feel like you're starting over, but really you just got to a new level. And so it's like, of course it's going to be new. It's going to feel hard. It's going to feel like starting over. But if you change that visual of like, okay, it's hard again, that means that I'm into this new level. I'm going to take all the lessons, all the talents and gifts that I have brought with me up to this level. But it's like, here we are in this new level. So this is a new challenge, but it's like starting over.
Oh, I like that way of looking at that. Yeah.
But it's really true.
Levels.
Can't you see that in your life where it's like you all of a sudden this new struggle comes and it's like, oh gosh. And you're like, how am I back to ground zero? But you're like, no, you're just to like level 7 now. You just moved up a level.
You just moved up a level. Yeah. And I think oftentimes I like looked at myself a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago as this like chart, you know, where I'm starting here and I'm like, there's ups and downs, but I'm continuously growing. And me a year ago, I was like, wow, look at that. You know, me so 5 years ago, 10 years ago, there's huge changes and huge growths from those.
And that's something that reflection, looking back, that's really, really important to me. And a huge part of why this podcast is because I want to encourage listeners or guests to take that time to look back and reflect and see that, you know, because if we're always looking forward, then it's going to feel tiresome. We're not going to even understand how far we've come. But if we take that time to look back and say, wow, last year at this time, this is what I really wanted. Like right now, last year at this time, I was like, okay, I got to get brave. I got to launch a podcast. What am I going to do? How am I going to do this? I don't even know like what microphone to use. I don't even, you know, all these things. And when I look back now and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've like recorded over 50 episodes. That's not 5,000, but I'm going to freaking celebrate because that, you know, it's like, or maybe I'm wishing to get to a certain number of downloads or shares or all of these things, but it's like, no, I freaking started a podcast and I'm just going to celebrate that. Right. So looking back and maybe last year, this time, you didn't trust yourself in a way that you could even go shopping and pick out your own clothes. Like, congratulations. If that's the growth that you've experienced in this year, or maybe there was, you know, maybe you wanted to be consistent at drinking water or showing up in a new way. So, but unless we take that time to look back and see the growth, then we're not going to even notice it. So I love that you shared looking back. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. And that reflection is huge because we do so much, we accomplish so much, just oftentimes we don't realize the progress that we've hit and celebrating those. that is a daily beautiful practice.
We're also really good at, I see this in my print shop.
Yeah.
You know, we have thousands of shirts that go through. And if there's like, I just see this conveyor belt of thousands of shirts going through, right? And then there's like this little like glitch in an order. And that glitch like blows up into this like huge bomb that overshadows the thousands that have gone on. And it's like, then there's like thousands more, but then this bomb goes off when there's like any problem. And I feel like that's sort of true for us in our life too. The bombs we should be like, every order should be like fireworks, like fun fireworks of like, yes, yes, yes. And then, you know, if there's like a little fire, it's like, okay, here's like a fire for an hour. Here's like a little bomb. But instead it's like nothing, 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 bomb, nothing, 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 bomb, you know, and then we only notice the bombs instead of like those, you know, the confetti or the fireworks all along the way. So that's also back to you living in that gratitude and the noticing the good and really celebrating it.
Yeah, really celebrating. Yeah, celebrating all that we do and also all that we are, you know, like that's a hard one to celebrate too, is like, and in this growth, you know, we don't like write a list like, oh, I became more resilient, you know, or I decided to lean into this talent and gift and look at what it brought, you know. We oftentimes look at this checklist of, well, I did this, I accomplished this, that was really cool, you know, type of thing. But what it really comes down to is, who are we growing into? Who are we becoming?
That's it right there. That is it. That is who am I becoming? And do I know myself? Do I see myself? Do I love and connect and embrace all of the parts of me? Because this is my life. This is my experience here. This is who I'm actually meant to be. And so that's it right there. I think that's it. I think it's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for that. So the two questions that I like to end the podcast with, it's this idea of fire in her heart, peace in her soul, which I feel like all the things that you have shared have kind of shown me that you have been able to notice the things that were really lighting you on fire, your heart on fire, and also ways that you protect the peace of your soul. But I'd love for you to answer this. So what is something that is currently lighting your heart on fire?
Oh, deep connection, like deep personal connection. I do a lot of like Voxer coaching, and there's just something about like when my clients like, ooh, this clicked. Thank you so much. This clicked for me. I had this huge thing going on, but I showed up as me. I showed up so much better. I showed up balanced and with clarity. Thank you. You know, it's those moments of connection. I was listening to one of the Voxer clients this morning, and I was like, oh, I just felt like even though she's in a different place and I'm in a different place, I'm like, we're together, you know, and that means a lot to me. And same with my family, like deep, meaningful connection with them is all I want. You know, they're all grown. I have 3 adult kids. One's still at home. And when they're back, they were back for Christmas and stuff. And it was just so amazing to have them all at home. And I felt like, I was like, this is what life is all about, is our love and our relationships with each other. That is what makes my heart on fire.
We share that. I love that so much. That's beautiful. And the same as you. And what is something that you do to protect the peace of your soul?
I take care of myself relentlessly. I consider taking care of myself one of my full-time jobs.
Yeah.
That is the best thing I can do with my time and my resources. So I've been in the coaching space for a little while, and I've been in the corporate space for a long time. But what I've never done is got a coach for my physical self. And I've done therapy, I've done coaching in that space. So, but I was like, physically, I've been needing this support. And I was like, why have I never sought for a coach that would help me to get stronger at the gym, to eat the right things? And I've always been really healthy, but like, but I was like, you know, again, taking myself and being the best advocate for my personal, physical, and emotional well-being is what helps me to win. And when I win, everybody else wins around me, you know, and I show up in that way. And I felt so good about having support for my own being, you know, and not being like, you're fine, just go for it, you know, do it on your own. But really, like, I need support.
That's so good.
So that's been really brought me so much peace and to my soul.
Or just taking care of yourself.
Yes.
And you've used the word relentlessly a lot. And I love it. Every single time you said it, I'm just like, relentlessly, like that word relentlessly. It's like this non-negotiable. It's like you're protecting yourself, and it's fierce, but it isn't like rigid or rude. It's fiercely protecting yourself. And I think that's so powerful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it really has created a shift. And like when I go to places, I tell people, I'm like, hey, I need to rest for a couple hours in the afternoon. And that's looking like watching a show, taking a nap, you know, taking my time to replenish. And that, like, before I would have been like at a business meeting, I said, hey, I have to go lay down for a couple hours. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you say that. Sometimes I want to say that too, you know, but I'm like, just speaking my needs has been so beautiful. So,
and such a beautiful way to honor yourself as well. It's like giving other people permission, but also honoring yourself, what your body, what your soul is telling you that it needs. We don't do that enough. So, gosh, thank you for sharing so much. Where can the listeners find you?
Oh, thank you so much for having me on, Chelsea. This has been awesome. They can find me, I'm on Facebook and Courtney Koenig, and on Instagram, Courtney.Koenig. So they can find me in those two places. I also have a podcast called Become, and which you're on, and I'm so excited.
I'm so excited.
Can't wait for that episode to be released. And yeah, just send me a message. I love connecting with people and getting to know others.
So cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I am grateful for our first podcast on your show, and then for you coming over here, recording with me. There's so much that listeners can take away from this conversation and also continue to learn from you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. It was awesome.